Welcome to the joint veterans endorsement interview for judicial candidates. This is the final judicial interview that we're going to be doing for the 2026 cycle. The next one will happen in the 2028 cycle. So let's finish strong. At the outset, we'd like to formally recognize and thank our sponsoring organization for making today's event possible. That is Veterans in Politics International, Nevada Veterans Association, and Armed Forces Chamber USA. We also extend our sincere appreciation for our additional sponsors and community partners whose support helps ensure a professional, fair, and transparent endorsement process. Those are Judge Jacob Reynolds, Clark County District Court, Department 29, Judge Mary Perry, Clark County District Court, Family Division, Department P as in Paul, Judge Veronica Barisic, Clark County District Court, Department 5, Danielle A. Tarmu, who is a candidate for Clark County District Court Judge Department 28, and Amanda Pilizzari, Las Vegas Municipal Court Department 1. We're honored to have all of you with us today. Before we begin the interviews, let's review some of the rules and the format. First, the panel members will introduce themselves by stating their names and organizations they represent. Next, each candidate will introduce themselves. Please include the office you're running for and explain why you are seeking that position, or if it's appropriate, why you're seeking to retain that position. We will then proceed to the interview portion. Please remember, this is an interview. It is not a debate. Candidates may not ask questions of one another, and all responses must be directed to the panel. In the interest of fairness to all participants, we will strictly enforce the time limits. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question. When you have 30 seconds, I'm going to just make a hand motion out here for you to see that you have 30 seconds. Police yourself on the time. If the alarm sounds and you hear the alarm, please rapidly finish your thought. Come to an end. We don't want to extend that. At some point in time, we may reduce it down to a 60-second, more of a rapid-fire response towards the end of the interview process. After all panel members have completed their questions, each candidate will be given 1 minute to make a closing statement at the end of this interview process. And at the conclusion of today's interview, we're going to once again recognize and thank all of our sponsors. Are there any questions?
No, sir.
Seeing and hearing none, we are going to start with the very lovely Joanna Farrakhan to begin the questioning process.
Oh, we have to introduce.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do that. Let's start introducing. I'll start. My name is Bill Carnes, and I am here on behalf of Nevada Veterans Association.
Hi, I'm Cindy Lake with Veterans in Politics International.
Greetings. I'm David Farrakhan with the Armed Forces Chamber.
I'm TK Crabb with Veterans in Politics.
Well, I'll introduce myself again. I'm Joanna Farrakhan with the Armed Forces Chamber, and we're going to start with the judge.
I'm sorry. I'm not afraid to make mistakes, which is why I probably make them. So now we need to let them introduce themselves, and then it will be your turn.
There you go.
My mistake. So, but go ahead.
So my name's Catherine Wiersch. I'm currently a hearing commissioner for the district courts, and I oversee the specialty courts. So I do civil commitments. Those are our mental health crisis holds. And I do mental health court and co-occurring disorder courts. And I oversee the NDOC, which is our prison systems re-entry program with medicated assisted treatment. Did you want a 1 minute why we're running as well?
You have 1 minute to say whatever you want.
So I'm running for Henderson Municipal Court Department 1 because I do feel that there's a gap in that jurisdiction in Henderson Municipal Court for mental health services. So my goal is to bring my experiences that I've obtained while working at a public defender, representing the individuals who were placed on mental health crisis holds and were participating in these probation programs, and take that experience to the bench. There's a very large gap on our mental health services. We're seeing that statewide, nationwide, and I do think I'm the right person to bring that experience to the bench.
Thank you all for being here today and for having us. My name is Alicia Albritton. I am a wife, a mother, and a daughter of a Marine. I am also a judge in Henderson Municipal Court, Department 1. Prior to taking the bench 3.5 years ago, I worked as a prosecutor for 16 years in the Clark County District Attorney's Office, ensuring that I served to protect the community. Now, As a judge, I continue serving the community. I work to ensure fairness and accountability and respect in my courtroom every day. Part of the most rewarding part of my job is presiding over Veterans Treatment Court. We recognize that veterans come back from service and they're not all whole. Some of them need individualized treatment to help them get back to society and being productive. That is where Veterans Treatment Court comes in. I have over 60 hours of training in specialized alternative courts over the past 3.5 years. Since taking over Veterans Treatment Court in the past 3.5 years, I have only allowed the prior presiding judge to handle Veterans Treatment Court because I value that specialized training. So, thank you.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Gary Thompson. I'm running for Henderson Municipal Court, Department 1. I'm a lifetime resident of Henderson, born and raised here in the Valley. This is my 31st year in practice. April 1st, I opened my own office 30 years ago, 1996. I have extensive experience in various areas of the law, from family law to bankruptcy, criminal defense, civil litigation, construction defect, over my career. And I did 2 years as an alternate judge as municipal court in Las Vegas. I've done 10 years as an alternate judge for Henderson Municipal Court. Very familiar with Veterans Treatment Court, as I was a primary fill-in for Judge Stevens when he was on the bench. At one time, I knew for about 2 years, I went to every Thursday, whether I was presiding or just there for the briefing to keep up with all the veterans. I fully support that court, and I intend to continue that. And I love the city, and I look forward to serve.
Okay. Joanna Farrakhan with the Armed Forces Chamber. How should a judge approach sentencing for repeat offenders? Judge?
Is that for me? Yes. All right. So what I will say is that, are we looking at the court that we handle currently, municipal court, or felonies in district court, for clarification?
Municipal.
Okay. So in regards to municipal court, what happens for sentencing, I will say that 99% of the time, I will go along with the recommendation of the parties. The parties may have information about a case or something happening with the defendant or the victim that the court does not know. When it comes to municipal court, the court only knows the information that is provided to it by the parties, unless it is my probable cause month, which it is now, so I get to see every report. So I have a little bit more about the facts, but generally it is a risk assessment that comes before the court, which tells us about the criminal history. The prosecutor may also argue the criminal history, and the court does take that into consideration. The court takes into consideration the defendant's history, what is the facts of the case with the victim, as well as anything else that comes before the court. I then make an individualized determination in regards to sentencing, if it is completely left up to me. But as indicated, 99% of the time, I will follow the negotiations. There have been times when I've deviated, when I felt perhaps it was in the best interest of a young person to get a high school diploma instead of petty larceny class. So I do take individual things into consideration.
I agree with the judge. It's pretty standard across the board. Negotiating cases, a lot of time and effort go into that between the parties. A lot of information is shared. Mitigation is done and exchanged between the defense attorney and the city attorney. So as a judge, it's one of the ways that you can become reliable and trusted in the community, especially in the legal community, is by following the negotiations. But there are opportunities within those negotiations, that's within the judge's discretion to say, is this appropriate for the outcome? And I think that one of the keys to that discretion is knowing what's available as alternatives. So in my particular role, I think that we see a lot of negotiations that are not on mark with what actually produces change or rehabilitation or provides appropriate community safety on the back end. One of the biggest things I talk about is, when this person gets done with this case, they're going right back into our community. Have we produced or provided an opportunity to change behavior? So while I understand and appreciate the negotiations, I do believe that within my discretion, I'll have those conversations with the attorneys to say, have we considered alternatives that will produce a better outcome?
Thank you. Gary?
All right. Panelists have said what I feel as well and what's been in practice for my 30 plus years practicing. I have been frustrated by a judge who doesn't know the case, and I've exchanged a lot of information back and forth with the prosecutor, and they will not approve a negotiation. And so I feel that, sitting on the bench is that I think you really need to respect the work that they've put in and the recommendations they're making. I think your question was about repeat offenders specifically, and I think that's already been taken into consideration by the prosecutor. Certainly, looking at the cases, and they're great. The prosecutors are, when I look at their recommendations and what they've looking at the cases, I think very much I've only seen appropriate deals on the record. If they let it up to the judge, then of course you're going to look at everything you can and evaluate each case individually. And repeat offenders is definitely a negative on their part. Thank you.
All right, this is your 30 seconds to go. Okay. Bill Carnes, Nevada Veterans Association. Per NRS Chapter 5, explain the jurisdiction of municipal courts over civil and criminal matters, including caps on claims and transfers to other courts for treatment programs. We'll start at the end, please. You can take that sip before I start, Tom. Go ahead.
That was a very long question. Can you repeat the first part? I'll
repeat the whole thing. Okay. Per NRS Chapter 5, explain the jurisdiction of municipal courts over civil and criminal matters. Include the caps on claims and transfers to other courts for things such as treatment programs.
Sure. So the municipal court will oversee civil up to $2,500, $1,500. Don't quote me on it. I haven't. Civil's not their main focus. The majority are criminal misdemeanors. It's my understanding that treatment programs can transfer. I've even had cases right now that I have in my probation felony specialty courts that transfer from municipal court. And that's something we take seriously because obviously we're putting them into an environment with more serious offenses. So we don't want to put somebody in a program that would make them worse off or put them at more high risk. But it is a transfer opportunity. I've had incidents where individuals are not they're not meeting the criteria at municipal court, but district courts level will accept them because they meet our criteria. So there is transferability. I don't treat it any differently when they come in front of me and they have a misdemeanor. Their requirements are still the same. The expectations on them are still the same. I forget the last part of the question, but I know you timed me out. It's a possibility. It can happen. It happens. I see it every day, but it has no less value to me. It's still. Oh, okay, great.
All right, the civil limits in regards to what municipal court can hear is $2,500. I will say in the 3.5 years that I've been there, I've never had any of those cases. I can also handle abatement cases. We're expected to have some come through the pipeline. We have not. So the majority of what municipal court handles is criminal misdemeanor cases. In regards to transferring to other jurisdictions, if the court, this case being municipal court, does not have a specialty treatment court, Henderson Municipal Court has two, Veterans Treatment Court and ABC Drug Court. However, in regards when it comes to a mental health court, if we don't have that, we can transfer that to another jurisdiction, that case to another jurisdiction, give that court original, essentially, jurisdiction over it. They take over the case and the person enters their treatment court program. So we do have that ability through the statute. NRS Chapter 5 gives municipal court that ability. But as indicated, the majority of what municipal court handles is criminal misdemeanors.
All right. Yes, 2,500, and in 12 years, filling in, I haven't seen one. They just don't come through the municipal court very often. We're limited to misdemeanor crimes. I've also seen the transferability of veterans to our court. We've had some from Boulder City Municipal Court when they're in the Veterans Treatment Court, and we could transfer out, as Judge mentioned, to and what a need for mental health court. which I believe is a big gaping hole in our system in Henderson. So, yeah, there's really not much else to say on transferability and what we handle in our jurisdiction.
Sounds good. You don't have to take all 90 seconds.
You got it.
Cindy Lake, Veterans in Politics. Catherine, you said there is a big gaping hole, and as did you. So what is that gaping hole? This is for all of you. And how would you like to see specialty courts expanded, and who would be funding those?
Well, I would take money from anybody as it comes to specialty courts. But I mean, I think it's not like I'm going to walk in day one and expect to be handed a blank check and say, open a program. I think that there are ways to incorporate requirements that can address mental health needs, even in basic negotiations. I've been that person called into to our smaller jurisdictions, our justice courts with clients. I mean, I've had judges say, public defender, get Catherine here. She's going to know what to do, because I've got my pulse in the community on our treatment services. While I am the hearing commissioner and I have that role in mental health court, one of my main things I do is go to the community, go to the provider. I want to know what services you provide. It's twofold for me. One, it's about information sharing, but two, it's about what I'm holding my participants accountable to. When they tell me that they're struggling because there's the meds pass by a certain person and they get triggered, like I want to know the layout of that room. So, yes, there's a gaping hole. I see it every morning. I get a criminal printout who has a mental health case on a mental health crisis and who has a criminal case, so I can see it physically every day. My goal is to get there, bring the Rolodex of individuals that I've been working with for over 8 years to the table, the committees I sit on right now, and say, how can we get this done? How can we start small so that the city will see the value of it and the court will see the value and invest in that space?
So I think you hit the nail on the head. Expanding the courts needs funding. Needs funding and resources, not only that, but also calendars and judges. We have 3 judges in Henderson Municipal Court, 2 have a specialty court. When those 2 have a specialty court, another one picks up the slack for the in-custody calendars or other calendars that may be heard. So that is also something to take into consideration. What I will say is that Veterans Treatment Court does consider mental health, and we do treat mental health things as well. Many of the subjects in Veteran Treatment Court get treatment from the VA. As you are aware, the VA also handles behavioral health and mental health. So that is something that is already incorporated into the program. I cannot speak for the other specialty court there, but I will say, again, if there are times when it is something more complicated or something where the VA may be taking too long, we do have those resources either to send them to another specialty court, or we reach out to other veteran organizations or other organizations in the community to get them the service that they need. Thank you.
Yeah, funding for a mental health court or some form of diversion with that issue coming in is essential. How is it going to be funded? Everyone's looking for money. I think it would almost have to be a collaboration between public and private, and really show the need. But someone would have to spearhead that. And I think, I think you could form something within not only the Henderson Municipal Court, but expand it to the justice courts as well. In Henderson, we have 7 judges, in the building. We will, and so. It'd be nice to see more resources put towards that, because we do have a revolving door of having them violate the law, come into our system, not get treatment, let them back out, and they're back in again. And it's really tough to see.
David Farrakhan with the Armed Forces Chamber. What factors should a judge consider when determining an appropriate sentence? We'll start with you, Gary.
Sure. I think back to sentencing, most of the time, and 99% of the time, we're looking at the recommendations from the city on what, and it's usually a collaboration of the defense attorney and the city coming to an agreement over what penalties and sentencing is going to be put in place. If you're looking at something where you've gone through a trial and they've been found guilty, then you still look for the city to recommend a sentence. And generally, I would say, this is their area. I respect what they recommend to the court. Certainly, I'm going to look at each case individually and under the circumstances of what's going for. If you've had an entire trial in front of you, you have a lot more information to work with. If you have only the representations of the city and an agreement with defense counsel, then generally I would approve that.
All right, yes, as previously indicated, most of the cases do result in negotiations. I myself, 99% of the time, follow that. If I am going to deviate from that, or it is strictly the parties arguing, because I have had a case where they just want to argue sentencing, or as indicated by Mr. Thompson, if it's after a trial, we take into a number of things. Trial, as he indicated, we would have more facts about the case. I know for myself, when I'm looking at a calendar and looking at a person standing before me, I look at their age, I look at their criminal history, I look at anything that is presented to me. We may have a letter from a victim. We may have a victim speaker, and by law, they get to speak last. We're going to take into account everything that they are saying. They may have information about that person that the court is not privy to. They may indicate that perhaps this all stems from a substance abuse problem, or they feel that there are some mental health issues. Those are things that maybe are not brought forward to the court, but now we have that information. So before I make a ruling, I will listen to everything that is provided and then make an individualized determination. Sometimes it is following the city's recommendation, sometimes it is following the defense recommendation, and sometimes it is completely what I create. Thank you.
I think everybody spoke so well about all of those things. The two things I was kind of thinking of are what's missing from the paper, right? We're getting a police report, we're getting a risk assessment. We've got arguments from both sides, but sometimes there's what's in between the lines that can be missing. And I think that's where judicial discretion comes in. I'm not the type of judicial officer that throws something out in the left field or doesn't incorporate the parties. So again, it would be something I would be communicating and asking if they've considered before they implement just another 30 days in jail. Is that really all we're doing in this particular, example? The other thing is the victim speaker or the lack thereof. Sometimes that can be an important indicator of what's really going on. I think that we kind of have lost the value of bringing everyone to the courtroom to have their day in court. And, sometimes that's the reason cases resolve certain ways, is because there's a lack of a witness or lack of a victim. And I think that's an important factor to take into consideration, whether the city's had contact with that individual or not. But on top of that, it's all the factors. It's the background. It's the how many, and what did we do last time? If this is a repeat offender, what did we try last time and did it work or not? That is all information that's relevant when that judge is going to be held accountable for community safety.
TK Crabb, Veterans in Politics. A municipal judge has significant authority over people's lives, even in minor cases. What safeguards do you put in place personally to make sure that power is not abused? Judge.
Safeguards to make sure power is not abused. I will say for myself, from a personal perspective, as you saw how I introduced myself, my job is being judge. I don't take that as a role of power to control over someone else or lord over someone else. We are here to do our job. We are here to uphold justice. We are here to ensure fairness. We're here to treat people with respect. So when someone comes into my courtroom, I listen to what they have to say. I listen so much my staff may say, "Oh my gosh, can you stop them?" But I give them the time to say what they need to say. And sometimes I might have them repeat it because I might not have caught everything that you said. And I may have to repeat it back to them to make sure I hear everything. But I take all of that into account, and I am not there to say I am almighty. That is not my job. I am just there to ensure that things happen within the law. And that is what I do every day.
I think that my upbringing would probably never allow me to take on a power trip. I grew up homeless and unhoused. My dad was a veteran. He didn't access his resources or his benefits until I was in my late 20s. That's what he realized, that his service time actually deserved a benefit from it. So we struggled with housing insecurities. I was homeless at 14. I ran away. I have been fighting to just be okay. And what I've happened along the way is I've seen those individuals. I can identify them that have taken me by hand and said, here's the next best step. Let's go this way, not that way. And it's been kind of my commitment to my community to do that. Every time I've been given a next leadership role, or what you might call, I get my law degree, and it was like, what are you going to do with it when they go back and serve my community? Because someone served me. And so I'm going to continue that. That's my reason for wanting to be a judge. It wasn't a power trip or wanting to have to say or the control. For me, it's another opportunity to be a voice, to say, stop what you're doing. Let's guide you this way. So I mean, I don't want to never say never, but I know I'm very self-critical. My commitment is to serve. I just can't see myself doing that, but.
The experience of being a defense attorney and representing people in court, and then sitting on the bench and sitting in the judge's chair, what I have found is I just want respect, some consistency, and we have so many individuals that aren't represented by counsel that are trying to get through the court system, whether it's traffic or they have some kind of issue with code enforcement, or they don't have a registered dog, properly. And they can't afford to have an attorney represent them. So they're just trying to get through. And so I just look to try to treat people the way I would want to be treated, with respect. I try to listen to their issues, get them through the process, and make sure that they have a fair, experience in that courtroom. And so my dad was a police officer in Henderson for 28 years, and that's the city I've grown up in, and the culture I've grown up in. Both of my grandfathers were in the military, and my father. And so there is a structure to it, but it doesn't have to be harsh, and we're not there just to make unilateral harsh decisions, trying to get them through.
Joanna Farrakhan with the Armed Forces Chamber. In the beginning, when you introduced yourself, we talked about why you all are seeking this municipal court position. What I want to add to that is, what would success look like during your first term? Gary.
Success. I've been there a long time and filled in for all three departments, and seen specialty courts in Las Vegas and Henderson. Success for me is having the prosecutors, defense, and staff know they're going to get a consistent judge that starts on time, that is consistent with the law, that is respectful to litigants and staff. And success just means it's people have an experience that they feel is fair, and again, consistent, on time, and that's really, everyone knows what they're going to get when they come into that department, and so my first term would be to have that. I don't have to be liked by anybody, but I want them to make sure that they have a fair experience. They're like, you know what, I get a fair shake there. He's always on time. He's very respectful. And so I know what I'm going to get. That's what I think would be a success for me.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, success is subjective. I do agree with everything that Mr. Thompson has said. That is something that is very important. But also, what was very important for me walking into the role was having a relationship with the staff. Everyone on the staff, not just the 5 clerks in my department and my judicial assistant. I took it upon myself to learn everyone's name within the court system. And even to this day, I still know old people come, new people come. I know all of their names, and I can probably tell you something about them because I want to build that relationship. And that's also essentially how I listen to people in court as well. So how I hear something and I'll ask something more about what you're saying, or even paying attention to body language. An example in Veterans Treatment Court, I love getting to know the participants in Veterans Treatment Court. My staff again says I'm nosy, which I am, but there's a reason for that, because I need to know what's happening in your life. I need to be able to figure out what is going to trigger you, and can we get ahead of that? So before something happens, I want to know all of that. I want to know when you walk into my courtroom, I can tell if you have had a good or bad day just from how you're looking, picking up on that body language. And it's not just the participants in Veterans Treatment Court, but you can tell when someone walks up to the bench, how they are, how their day is. Are they nervous? I might even say, you relax. Like, I'm not going to bite you. You will be okay. You'll make it out of here. But having a relationship with people does help to ensure that they feel that they are treated fairly. They're not always going to agree with your decision, but they need to feel that they were heard.
Thank you. And Catherine?
Yes, I do agree with both of them. I think the number one successor to a case is the relationship with the judge. So that consistency, understanding what you're going to expect, setting clear expectations in our courtroom, as well as the relationships that we build. But for me, I have a bigger picture of success. I sit on some committees right now, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council for the city of Las Vegas. There are some big names there. Metro's there. The sheriff's got a seat at the table, the public defender, the district attorney, but there's no one from Henderson there. The first time they came last month. And when they came, I knew exactly who they were, one of our council people. And he said, no one comes. I said, no one comes. So it is my goal to get not just a voice in the room. That's not entirely true. Judge Skifalakwa has appeared before. But again, just being that voice in all areas where we can say it's consistent and we get a seat at the table, because we are a voice to how things are going in our city. That the committee focuses on housing issues, veteran issues, our protected class issues. They talk about getting intercept points in the courts for housing and services, but it's also if you don't have a criminal case, what are we doing to help this person? What's the next homeless shelter look like? We've got issues in all these different areas, and there's no one there from Henderson. I'm going to be there.
All right. We are going to switch to 60-second rapid-fire responses. We're going to get through as many as we can before time is up in just about 10 minutes here. So I'm going to ask each of you to answer this in a specific order. And, Judge, I can ask you to answer last because you have most time on this particular bench. And I figure you might provide the answers to everybody else. And I want to see what they have to say. What cases in Henderson Municipal Court in that jurisdiction serve the interests of the public the least and tend to clog up the court's docket unnecessarily? And what do you believe can be done about that? Gary, we'll start with you.
So, we have a lot of individuals who are repeat offenders, but for very petty crimes, and mostly, I would say, it is like trespassing, or a petty larceny, illegal camping. So, and it's just, they've been there before. They're going to get room, food, and beverage, housed for a while, and then they're going to be let out on the streets. And I think it's a drain in resources in both our police, our jail, and our court system.
What can be done about it?
What can be done about it? Boy, that's a tough one. We need an outreach in the public to work on a place to get these people housed so that they can get the resources they need, not only to get an ID, to deal with any of the issues they have with drugs or alcohol or mental health, and know that they have a roof over their head.
Catherine?
Yes, I agree with Gary as to the types, but I'm going to focus more on what can be done about it. In our Clark County Detention Center right now, there's a pretrial service unit that has been funded through the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. Their whole goal is when a person is brought into the jail and booked, they are assessed on services. Do you have your Medicaid in? Has it lapsed? Do we need to get that? Are you missing vital documents? Where can we start with that? what's preventing this person from being released? These petty kinds of charges shouldn't really be held on like a high bail, or when then we end up having seats in the jail that they're petty, they should be out, but they can't. And so the pretrial services in CCDC's goal is to look at it from a poverty point of view, right? A lifestyle point of view. What's preventing you from being successful in our community? That's happening right now. Where are we at in the city? Downtown, that can be brought over. I have that relationship. I know the city of Las Vegas is trying to incorporate some of it. They're setting the stage there. It's something we can easily incorporate into Henderson with money.
That is a factor. And that has not come to Henderson Detention Center, even in Justice Court, even though they are part of the county. So there are things that we can do, and that does include even maybe more wraparound services, getting more service providers to even go into the jail to do some counseling. Ms. Wiersch spoke about poverty. That is an issue. And I will say that is an issue, and it does cause repeat offenders, as he spoke about with camping prohibited. But part of what I look at in terms of not just taking up a bed in the jail is, are you a repeat offender? But most importantly, do you return to court? I have no problem releasing people if they actually return to court. So there is something as well, and I spoke about it as well with one of the councilmen, I'm sure that was one that was at the meeting, with getting some resources where perhaps we can get them bus passes where they can return to court. And that would be something that I would be happy to try and to implement, because the biggest factor to the court clogging up the system as well is bench warrants and failure to appear warrants. People do not return to court, and people do not take care of their cases. Thank you.
Speaking of safety, Cindy Lake, Veterans in Politics. Henderson releases at about 2 a.m., 2 to 3 a.m., releases there onto the streets. And I've seen this personally, where somebody might not even have a ride, and they're going to get in trouble again. What would you do to change that or make it better?
People are looking at me. I'll go first. I think that, that's a question for the jail admin. There's reasons why. I mean, people eat dinner at 3 p.m. in the jail setup. Like the timeline in jail does not function like our normal timeline. However, if there's any chance to set that person up with a contact point, like they're waiting for a ride, their family can come get them, or I have a service that's ready to do pickup and have a discharge that's safer, right, to get to their next spot, whether it be the shelter or group home or et cetera. The court can order that specific timeline. They can put in their order, I'm releasing OR on the 12th between 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. to this particular individual. And then it becomes a order that person takes with them. They go in through the front door and they say, I'm here to pick up so-and-so. The problem is how often is that happening? Not very often. I usually do it in guardianship cases or cases where I know the individuals are returning to group homes or to family, but they're, unique. But it's a question for the jail.
All right. Yeah, it's been I've seen it too. My office is on Water Street. I'm right at Water and Atlantic. And again, I've grown up in the city, and I know it between 2 and 4 a.m., here they come. And there isn't much to do except for them to get in trouble again. And so, I believe we have to have something there, but it's not something that I think the jail services, but we really, again, I think we're going to have to reach out to a public-private sector to have some resources available upon release, so at least they can get a safe ride, somewhere to go other than just being released out onto basic. So.
All right, that generally is something that we leave up to the jail. I do try to let the jail run their jail how they run it. We do have meetings. We do confer about some things that happens. As indicated by Ms. Wiersch, those are things that we can do. I have had particular cases where we have had someone who needed to be released at a certain time to a certain person. We can put that court order in place. However, the typical person standing in front of me who may be getting a sentence, that is not a conversation that is typically had. That is something that needs to be brought to the attorney's attention and brought to the court's attention. There are times where I have had people who have had mental health and maybe they're going to have outpatient care. I will ask, who are we releasing this person to? And only needs to be released to that person. And we can put a specific time. The jail is very good about working with what we set. But generally, that is something that we leave up to them, because indicated they do run on a different clock. They eat breakfast over in the jail at 5 or 6, and you have people up working. So the COs have to be there for that and have to have all that covered. And so that is the time that they release them. But we're willing to work with them.
Thank you. David Farrakhan with the Armed Forces Chamber. If a higher court overturns one of your rulings, what responsibility do you have as a judge? I'll start with you, Catherine.
Well, the first thing I would do is look at the court's order in that overruling, so that I could see the error, because that's what's going to guide me on what needs to be corrected. So if it was an error in the law, then they'll provide, sometimes it might be general, like reread statute and apply, accordingly. But sometimes they'll be very direct and say, like, with your sentencing, it was illegal, correct it. So I think it's as easy as that. And I would be the first to say, please appeal me. If you feel that I have done something wrong, that's the avenue that every party has. And hopefully I've already given them an opportunity to make a good record, so that when they go to file those documents with the higher courts, they have a clear record to make, and then I will follow suit. I've had several judges tell me that to my face. Like, if you want to make the record, make it, because I know you're going to appeal me. And I have done that, and I have had the higher courts correct an illegal setting of bail. So I think that's the legal world. I just follow the new instruction.
Say, if I was overturned, I would use it as a learning tool. That's exactly it. What exactly did I miss or maybe get wrong in the interpretation? So I am not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. I tell people, oh, I got that wrong, and I'm willing to listen to things. I'm willing to address them. So if they do come back and say, hey, you got something wrong, that's fine. We move on, we address it, and we go from there. I, too, have told many parties, please make your record. We can even brief this out if you would like, and we'll make a decision. And if you do choose to appeal, please do. And then we wait to hear from guidance. I've even checked cases after the fact to see what happened with the appeals, and then somehow they got negotiated. So I do check to see what happens. So I am open to criticism, essentially constructive, that I can learn from. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. If a higher court has looked at a decision that I've made and decided that there was an error, that is a learning experience. That's the time to take a look at what happened, and review what I did to come to that decision, and say, okay, I took this process, which I always take, and it resulted in something that was wrong. And so really go back and look at what happened, why it happened, and learn from that. And again, I think it is really important that we make a great record. And that's something I'm a stickler about in court. Even though it might seem like we're going over the same stuff over and over and over again with each defendant, it is so important to make a great record so that if they do appeal, it's easy to review.
Folks, we've come up against a hard time limit on questions. Now I'd like to turn it over to each of you to have 60 seconds to talk about your candidacy, maybe where people can find you online, something along that lines. So from there, Catherine?
With my opponents, both of them have been in that position in the past, right? We have one that sits there now. We have one that's been doing the pro temming. And so we have to ask ourselves, where are we going forward and who's prepared to do that? We haven't seen a lot of the change in Henderson Municipal Court. We need some fresh eyes in there. Somebody who is willing to put in the hard work. Somebody who is willing to have the conversation. And I think some of it's just been because nobody's been at the table in our community to know what's been going on so that we can bring change to the Henderson Municipal Courts. That is my goal. It's to work hard. I know what it's like to have a daily calendar. I have it right now. I know what it's like to do a specialty court. Even though I don't oversee the specific veterans court, there are veterans in my program. I can do both of those, and I am still volunteering in the community. I am still a mother and a wife to a fireman who leaves every 2 days. I play the single parent role. I get it. I'm willing to do the hard work. You can find out more about me at my website, Catherine with a C, 4judge.com. I go into detail about my goals and my passion and who I am. I really am focused on bringing Henderson to the next place that our state is going.
All right, I'm running to retain my seat because experience and integrity matter. So while yes, everyone here has done a criminal case, when I was appointed, battery domestic violence was on the forefront and jury trials were beginning. I have over 30 jury trials under my belt as a criminal prosecutor. As indicated, municipal court handles primarily misdemeanors, criminal misdemeanors. That has been my 20 years. I have worked hard my entire 20 years. I have handled calendars that were 3-box calendars, and I still walk into court every day now, prepared for every calendar. I do bring something different. I got the first grant for Veterans Treatment Court. I also am intending to grow that program and to do more things with that program. So that is what we're working on now, and I hope to continue servicing the community of Henderson in that manner. Thank you.
Okay, Henderson is the city I love, the city I've grown up in, and I look to maintain a connection to the city and a connection to the community. I participate not only in with the city, and I've been appointed by 3 different mayors to do the Community Development Block Grant, which is looking at all the HUD funding that comes into the city and how it's appropriated. I participated and been on boards for substance abuse with the Nevada Treatment Center. I'm the current treasurer of the foundation board, which is the 501c3 arm of the Henderson Chamber of Commerce. I'm serving my second 2-year term on that. So it's active in the community, not only at a level of government, but it's also a level of community participation in 501c3s, and even being on like every homeowner association every community that I live in or have lived in since 1996. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I want to thank the panel. I want to thank our candidates here. I want to thank Veterans in Politics International, Nevada Veterans Association, and Armed Forces Chambers USA for sponsoring, being the sponsoring organizations and providing the panelists. And I want to thank our other sponsors for this, which would be Judge Jacob Reynolds, Clark County District Court, Department 29, Judge Mary Perry, Clark County District Court, Family Division, Department P as in Paul, Judge Veronica Barisic, Clark County District Court, Department 5, Danielle A. Tarmug, who is candidate for Clark County District Court, Judge, Department 28, and Amanda Pallarese, who's the Las Vegas Municipal Court, Department 1 candidate. Thank you very much, everyone.